What is up, my optimistic empire? My YouTube account makes the introduction unnecessary, yet I'll the light truth one anyway. I'm Christian Maracle. Okay, now you know who I am. Now, everybody right now has a mix of emotions after what happened tonight at Hell in a Cell. Especially what happened with the ending. With the Fiend versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship inside Hell in a Cell. It ended by referee stoppage. Now, everybody is pissed because of two reasons. One, the Fiend did not leave with the championship. And two, the match, once again, Hell in a Cell, ended by referee stoppage. Now, of course, the reasoning for 2018 ending a referee stoppage, I'll give you that one. That was bullshit. This year, on the other hand, things were a little different. Now, allow me to explain why I personally liked it. And, by the way, use the like and dislike ratio to determine whether or not you agree with my opinion. In other words, everybody's going to dislike this video. Alright, guys. Now, as we all know, throughout the weeks leading up to Hell in a Cell, the Fiend was built up as this supernatural entity that was always preying on the WWE superstars, but mostly the legends. It targeted Seth Rollins. And yeah, I'm referring to the Fiend as an it, not a he, because I like to keep in tone with the story rather than looking at it from a real life perspective, because honestly, I like looking at things from inside the script. It allows me to feel a little better about how things are working out. Now, the Hell in a Cell match itself, the Fiend dominated Seth Rollins for a long of the time of the match. The entire place was surrounded in red light, which was epic. But what happened was Seth Rollins managed to hit not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, but 11 curb stomps. 11 curb stomps. After any time he tried to pin the Fiend kicked out at 1. So he tried to hit a pedigree. The Fiend kicked out at 1 again. So, the Seth Rollins hit the Fiend in the face with a chair. The Fiend kicked out at 1. And if you notice at Seth's facial expressions, he was panicking. He was scared. And that, in my opinion, was perfect storytelling, because if we're trying to portray the Fiend as, like, you know, this demonic force, we gotta make it look like a real threat. And that was actually perfect for, like, you know, the Seth Rollins to be scared. So, Seth Rollins got panicked, freaked out, grabbed a ladder, smashed his face in with the ladder. It still kicked out. Rat looked to use that toolbox. Didn't work out. But then, of course, that's when the sledgehammer came into play. Now, to explain why the referee stopped the match. The referee stopped the match because he was scared. He was panicking. You can literally hear him tell himself, "No, don't do it! You're gonna kill him if you do this!" The referee was freaked out because he had never once dealt with anything like this. With anything involving, like, something as crazy as the Fiend or somebody trying to do attempted murder. Because that's what Seth was doing. Seth was panicked to the point where he's like, nothing I'm doing. None of my finishers are working on him. None of the weapon shots I'm doing are working on him. So there's only one thing left for me to do. Kill him. So, Seth Rollins tried to kill the Fiend. The referee panicked because, well, he was thinking the Fiend was like a real person and not a supernatural being. So if you look at it from that perspective, looking at the characteristics of the Fiend, of the referee, and Seth Rollins, it was like a real-life horror movie. Seth went ahead, smashed the Fiend with the sledgehammer. The referee called for the bell in fear. And he panicked, and he was a coward, of course. So that wasn't a disqualification, that was referee stoppage. Because the referee was afraid that the Fiend was dead. That explains why the referee would just stop the match like that, because in storyline, this referee was freaked out. Now, people are comparing this to the 1998 situation with Mick Foley. That was not scripted. That was not scheduled to be happening. That was different. That was a real-life thing. This, we're trying to portray as like a storyline horror movie. That's what it was about. And besides, the Fiend never once wanted the championship. And that explains why the Fiend was satisfied even by match's end. Now, many people are also saying that the Fiend was buried, which is also incorrect, because not once did the Fiend show any weakness. Took all those finishers, all those weapon shots, and still was the survivor. After the match ended, the Fiend once again rose, even after taking all those finishers, all those weapons, and all the sledgehammer to the face, The Fiend rose once again, put the mandible claw on Seth, ripped up the mat, hit his Sister Abigail on the concrete, and then placed the mandible claw on him in the concrete, causing Seth's mouth to gush out a lot of blood, thus putting up the final murder. It was always about torturing and killing Seth Rollins. It was never about winning the title. Now, if that's the case, then the Universal Championship is irrelevant, right? A little. Just a little bit. But the reason why I was involved in the match was because Seth Rollins is the guy who was the fighting champion, willing to defend the championship against anyone, or in this case, anything. So that's why Seth Rollins put up the title against The Fiend at Hell in a Cell, because he was confident that because he slayed Brock Lesnar twice, that he could do the same thing to The Fiend. And then he was proven wrong. This was about Seth being surrounded by greed, surrounded by bragging of the fact that he slayed Brock Lesnar twice and he was a defending champion, thinking he can take on the whole world. That's Seth's character in the mix. The referee's character was a guy freaked out of his mind, dealing with the supernatural, never been involved in this type of situation, and panicking at the last second. And of course, there's The Fiend, whose intentions are not to win any championship gold, even if the title was on the line. The title being on the line was all Seth Rollins. What The Fiend wanted was torture, destruction, murder. That's what it did. And that's why The Fiend was the one who left, and Seth Rollins did not leave. Seth Rollins may still be the Universal Champion, and that's another thing that pisses people off. Seth's still the Universal Champion, and the match was inconclusive. That's the two reasons why people are saying it was a garbage ending. Is because they're not looking at it the way I did. But it's okay, it's okay to be mad about it. Everybody's allowed to be mad. So, it's okay. But ladies and gentlemen, that's me explaining why the match ended the way it did. That's another thing I should probably do. In case people are confused, I'm a guy who likes to look deep inside the storylines and look at it from a storyline perspective. So that's what I did. All The Fiend wanted to do was torture and kill Seth Rollins. Mission accomplished. Seth Rollins wanted to be a fighting champion. Mission sort of accomplished, but not really. Sure, Seth retained the championship. But here's the thing. Seth did not beat The Fiend. Seth, he's lucky he gets out of that alive. And this honestly makes me excited for who The Fiend is going to target next. It's okay to be mad that The Fiend did not win the title because that's what everybody wanted. But ladies and gentlemen, that is me explaining why I believe the match ended the way it did. Obviously, opinions may differ, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Whew. Aside from that, I enjoyed Hell in a Cell. Losers Lounge podcast later this Friday to discuss the whole event, and the rest of the losers are going to give their view on the whole thing. Alright guys, don't forget to subscribe for more content. WWE Sins is still coming still coming later today, okay? No problem, guys. I got the Sins videos all set up for you guys. Alright, have a good night, and if you want, you can still hate on what happened at the ending, because it's okay. It's okay to hate. Good night, everyone, and I'll see you in hell.